The last passenger, the last train to Ashcroft, always left Platform 7 at exactly 11:59 p.m. It was never crowded. A handful of exhausted workers, a college student buried in a book, an old woman knitting silently, and a tired ticket inspector made the journey every night. Yet there was one strange detail every passenger shared whenever they spoke about the ride. They all remembered sitting beside someone they could never clearly describe. No security camera ever showed an extra passenger boarding or leaving the train, and every seat appeared occupied only by the people whose tickets had been scanned. The railway dismissed the stories as exhaustion and imagination, but rumors spread through the town until no one wanted to take the last train. Noah, an investigative journalist known for exposing local legends, dismissed the stories as nothing more than mass hysteria. Determined to prove everyone wrong, he boarded the last train with a camera, a voice recorder, and a notebook. At first, everything seemed ordinary. The train rolled through the darkness as rain tapped softly against the windows. The fluorescent lights flickered once, and a strange chill swept through the carriage. When Noah glanced across the aisle, he noticed every passenger staring straight ahead, their faces pale and tense, as though they were trying not to look at something. Curious, he checked the empty seat beside him. It was vacant. He smiled to himself, convinced the legend was falling apart. Minutes later, the train entered Blackstone Tunnel, a place where the signal always disappeared. The lights went out completely, plunging the carriage into darkness. For nearly 10 seconds, the only sound was the grinding of steel wheels against the tracks. Then the lights returned. Noah froze. Someone was now sitting beside him. The stranger wore a long black coat and a weathered gray hat that hid most of their face. They remained perfectly still, hands folded neatly in their lap. Noah hadn't heard footsteps. He hadn't seen anyone move. Slowly, he lifted his camera and snapped a photograph. The screen displayed only himself sitting alone. His heartbeat quickened. He turned his head toward the stranger again. This time, they slowly tilted their head and whispered in a calm, emotionless voice, "Do you remember where you died?" Noah laughed nervously, assuming it was an elaborate prank, but something about the words sent a shiver through him. Before he could respond, the stranger looked back toward the window. Noah followed their gaze and felt the blood drain from his face. Outside, instead of racing through the tunnel, the train appeared to be gliding across an endless black landscape filled with hundreds of silent figures standing motionless in the darkness. Their pale faces all turned toward the train. Panicking, Noah rushed to the ticket inspector, demanding an explanation. The inspector looked confused. "You've been talking to yourself since we left the station," he said quietly. Noah insisted there had been someone beside him, but the inspector only frowned and walked away. Desperate, Noah questioned the other passengers. Every one of them gave the same unsettling answer. They couldn't describe the stranger's face, but they all remembered sitting beside them at some point during the journey. They all remembered hearing the same question. "Do you remember where you died?" As the train approached Ashcroft Station, the stranger finally stood. Without making a sound, they walked toward the exit. Noah chased after them as the doors slid open. The platform was completely empty. There was no sign of the mysterious passenger. Confused, Noah hurried into the station office, where a police officer stared at him in disbelief. "Who are you?" the officer asked. Noah laughed, thinking it was another joke, but the officer handed him an old newspaper from the archives. The front-page headline stopped his heart. It read, "Journalist Noah Carter among 27 victims in last year's midnight train crash." The article described how the final train had derailed inside Blackstone Tunnel exactly 1 year earlier. Every passenger had died instantly. Noah stumbled backward, unable to breathe. Memories he had buried suddenly flooded his mind. The screech of twisting metal, shattering glass, terrified screams, and then complete silence. Tears filled his eyes as he realized the truth. He hadn't boarded the train to investigate the legend. He had been riding it every single night for an entire year, trapped in a journey he couldn't remember. The stranger wasn't a killer, a ghost, or a monster. They were the conductor of lost souls, asking the same question night after night until each passenger accepted the truth. The station lights flickered. A distant train whistle echoed through the empty building. When Noah looked outside, the last train was waiting once again on Platform 7. The stranger stood by the open door, silently watching him. This time, Noah remembered everything. Without another word, he stepped back onto the train. The doors closed, and it disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, security footage showed the train arriving at the station exactly on schedule. The doors opened. The passengers stepped off one by one, everyone except one. There was always one last passenger who remained seated, waiting for someone else to take the empty seat beside them. The last passenger. Please subscribe to the Era of Mysteries channel.